Hi, my name is Carlos Patino. I'm with the group Make America Rage Again. Today I'll be discussing key concepts on Chapter 2. So let's get started. So here's just to make sure, Make America Rage Again. So this is the name of my group. So today I want to talk about scarcity. I know scarcity was covered in Chapter 1, but I just kind of want to reiterate it because more or less it's a key economic concept, and we talk about this pretty much in every class. How uh, the want for goods and services is always there for a person and for an industry, and there's always a limit to what's available. So scarcity. So on top of that, what I want to talk to as well is allocative efficiency. It's an important key concept because uh, mostly it talks about like what's most desired within society, and that kind of shows or shifts people into what to buying in our society and in our economy. So, for example, I mean, you think about the things we can't do without on a daily basis, like gasoline, food, those kind of resources. We're always shifting into what is needed and what's most desired. But on top of that, we always buy things that we don't need. And that kind of moves me into my other key concept, which is invisible hand. Well, uh, invisible hand talks about like the self-interested behavior of individuals. How most of the time we put what we want pretty much ahead of what we actually need. So, for example, I had just I know the new iPhone just came out, the iPhone 7, and it wasn't something I really needed per se, but like the hype train and the videos and like the things I want to say like the that kind of pushed me into getting it, but that wasn't the real reason because I knew I wanted it already. So there was kind of like a social push to get that. So I just wanted to, and so that kind of leads me to my other concept, which is budget constraint. Budget constraint is like the combination of goods and services that one can afford, given the prices when the income is spent, and then the boundary and the opportunity says. So what that means is, um, let's say for example, I have a family, and based on my income and everything, my expenses, I have to make a budget that makes sense for my family and that fits within all my constraints of living. So, gasoline, food, water, clothing. I'm paying for my education. So, I mean, these are all things I have to fit into my own budget and things that are available through my economy. So, budget constraints, and that kind of leads me into my next thing is utility. I think this is kind of an important concept, and we didn't really we spent some time talking about it, but I wanted to reiterate it because I think individuals they put what they most desire all the time, like, and especially for young people, I think people want to buy things that they want, and mostly it's like the satisfaction of wanting that one thing. For example, when I said like my iPhone, I know I could have done without it, but the utility, the satisfaction of having it, the usefulness, I knew I wanted it, regardless of if I had a good phone. I wanted a better phone, if that makes sense. So utility is one of those things, and that can range from a different thing, things that we consume, services. Basically, it plays into our satisfaction as individuals of when we have it. So it's a funny thing, and I thought it was important just to explain it over again. So now another thing, and you can probably lump this with utility, is my opportunity costs, because we often, even as young adults and students, And you even mentioned this in class, like you say you're paying for an education you're here right now, but you're losing on your opportunity cost by working, by earning money. So there's actually two things that you're doing that kind of exchange, and one actually the alternative actually gets sacrificed. So um, choosing to go to school, but I could be at work working extra hours, getting a bigger paycheck. So in essence, I'm actually losing money, money that I could be using to buy goods and services and fueling my utility and my satisfaction. So opportunity costs. Now, something that kind of goes along with this, but I thought was important in the chapter, is opportunity set. As we it's like the all the possible things we can consume and afford at the prices of the goods that we buy. So like based on our budget constraint, we always buy things that we know are affordable within our means of living. So like you know, let's say I went to a store and I want steak, I wouldn't go out and buy like the biggest steak at the store because it wouldn't make sense that I want it based on my utility, but that I can't afford it because it's the price of steak on the case. So you always have to make judgment calls based on what you want. So opportunity set kind of plays in those decisions that we make, even as young adults and learning these economic concepts. So opportunity set. Now I thought this one was really interesting because we talked about it in class, and it's kind of true, especially if you have money and you're buying things and you realize the moment you wanted it, but you have it, you realize you probably didn't need it, but you wanted it. So, and what that leads me to is law of diminishing marginal utility. So, I guess the best example is like the pizza. Let's say we wanted the pizza, like a big cheese pizza, and like the moment we taste that first slice, it's the most it's the greatest feeling in the world, that one first slice. But as we consume more of that pizza, that satisfaction of that the utility just kind of wears off, and it's something that we kind of do as an economy is we often buy more than we need, and once we consume it or use the service, we realize we could have probably done without it. Again, example, my iPhone. I knew I wanted it, but I probably could have done without it. So law of diminishing marginal utility. So another thing they talked about in the chapter 2 was comparative advantage. How a country can produce a good at a lower cost in terms of other goods, but that means the country has a lower opportunity cost of that production. So, for example, if you think about the produce we get on a daily basis from our markets, bananas, mangoes, those foreign fruits we get. Those are things that are produced in other countries that they're able to produce more because they have a low cost of production to make it. So my example would be like mangoes. My whole family loves mangoes, but they're not regionally to Arizona or even to the United States. So most of the time, when you look at where a mango comes from, it's from like Mexico or probably somewhere else of South America. Meaning, let's say Mexico makes more, can produce more mangoes and sell them at a premium because there's so many that the cost of the production to get them is a lot cheaper for them to turn around and sell them and make a profit. And it's the same for every country. United States, we have a lot of natural resources, precious metals, but then we turn around and go to another country and buy their own resources such as gas and things of that nature. So it that this concept comparative advantage kind of plays into the economic world as we see it, trading resources for resources and vice versa, money and things of that nature. So that kind of leads me to my next key concept, which is productive efficiency. And productive efficiency means uh, when we produce one good or service without decreasing the quantity produced of another good or service, meaning there's a tricky slope for most companies who have, let's say, more than one product that they're selling, but they're able to produce one of more. So when that happens, one, drastically goes in the production of that goes through the roof, while as the production of the other thing they're creating actually goes down. So when that happens, one rises, one falls. Inefficiency means that doesn't happen. That would or actually it'd be impossible to produce that one good without decreasing the other. So it's kind of like a kill, like it kind of teeter totters, but based on things affecting the company or things outside of it as well. So productive efficiency, very important. And basically the chapter, they emphasize scarcity and the cost of things and the trade-offs that happen and things, the economic world as for individuals, budget constraints, and things that affect everyone in the eyes of economy. So, and more or less, it's kind of emphasizes like the human behavior aspect of why we need that utility, why we need that satisfaction of buying things, budget constraints, why we budget our money to fit the means of our living, and like the law of diminishing marginal utility, you know, getting something and having it and realizing it's not, you didn't really need it. It's one of those things. I I I just think it was interesting. Opportunity costs when you trade something, which in the means you're losing out on something else. So there's kind of a trade off there, and invisible hand like you know self interested in behavior influenced by what society's telling us. So that me example with the iPhone, needing the iPhone but not really, but wanting it. You know. So those are kind of key terms in chapter 2, and that's about it. Thank you. My name is Carlos Patino. Thank you.